Hi, this is Laurie Laizure from To The Trade. Niall's not with us tonight, but we have Heather McManus from the Designers Collective, and I'm so excited to talk to you, Heather. We met in Paris, which is super fancy to say. But I've actually kind of followed along with what you've been doing for a long time, and I sort of wanted to dig in and tell some of our listeners what it is you do, what it is that your mission is, how it came to be. But we'll start with a little bit of background about you. Tell me a little bit about Heather and what it is that brought you into the design industry.
Oh gosh, big question.
I know,
So,
right?
yeah, who am I? I was only good at art in school. Like I have learning disabilities, and so school was a challenge, but art was easy. And so it's like, okay, well, you need a job in art. And my parents were probably a big influence because my dad could make things. He like built the house that we lived in and then rearranged it a bunch of times like it was made of Legos.
Oh, wow.
And then my mom was so interested in the interior stuff. And although we didn't grow up with money, because they were able to make things and they were creative, they can get stuff done. So I went to Pratt and I actually studied art education because I thought this is safe. I can have my summers off to paint and whatever. And when I graduated, it's like, it's who you know or that's it.
Right. Yeah.
So you're waiting for someone to die. It's like in the art, there's one teacher for that whole school, and
Right.
so she's going to keep that job for her life.
Right.
So I answered an ad in the paper back when that was a thing, and so my first job in the industry was for a workroom where I learned from the ground up how things were made. So this was in Short Hills, a very affluent area in New Jersey. So all these high-end interior designers were bringing their projects in along with like customers that would walk in off the street. It was a family-run business. It's like third generation. So I learned, all the different fabric manufacturers that there was because it was like a mini D&D building.
Right.
The boss, if you were a sales rep bringing a book in, he was buying it. So we had every fabric book imaginable. So I learned, all the different fabrics. And, when the bolt would come in, we would cut it. I would cut it with Kathy, who was one of the, main people. And then we'd go upstairs and would get sewn by seamstresses into this shape. And then suddenly it was a swag and jabot. And it was like, wow, that's neat. And then, the guys would go and install it. And then they also did reupholstery. So I got to see like, how the chair is built because they got to take it all off to build it back up again. And so it was such an education.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Hands-on. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which is, I
Right.
think, always the best way to learn. Is to really dig in and learn. It's not theory, it's real.
Yeah.
And you know what really works with different materials, what really doesn't,
Oh,
what
yeah.
has
My gosh.
stretch,
Did I
what
learn
does
a
not
lot?
have stretch, what can be paneled this way or that way, depending on the
Hmm.
material. And, that's stuff I think the designers still need to learn on a daily basis. Like
Yeah.
how is it applied onto the sofa,
Right.
custom fabric, and how can you make it look as seamless as possible so
Yeah.
that the client is happiest? And there are all little tips and tricks for
So
adding trim
much.
here and there so it doesn't it looks completely seamless, but it isn't. Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And how did you get to know interior designers?
So I went on to work at Ethan Allen for a couple years. Then I
Mhm.
worked at another really high-end furniture store that was again a third generation. And when that store was closing because it was 2008 and kaboom.
Right, right.
Yeah. I basically that was the time for me to go out on my own and do my own design business. So I had that since 2012 and basically just this past year stopped doing interior design full time or even part time
For
and have
yourself,
just
yeah.
been doing the designers
Working on
collaborative
the
full
designers
time.
collaborative,
Yeah.
yeah. And, I understand it's a need, and so for some people listening, I mean, you might not know what Designers Collaborative is, or you might, and but there are lots of different versions of what we want to I don't really want to call it a buying group because there are some buying groups have gotten such a bad connotation in this industry. But it is the collective buying power of interior designers. There are pluses and minuses from that perspective from the manufacturers and also from designers. I've heard all the feedback, but
So have I.
I'm sure you have.
Yes. People are
But
not
I'm
quiet.
sure but there are obviously some that are reputable. There are going to be some designer collectives that are, you know, that are doing this in a reputable way and are trying to really just help designers and that are godsend because those designers might not meet the minimum at every single product available. And to be able to start having some buying power by pooling resources. How did you tackle this? I mean, this is a really tricky thing because there are a lot of people in your business giving it a bad name.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate.
Right.
We're professionally run. This is my full-time business.
Right.
It's not a hobby. It's not something I'm doing on the side while I'm trying to juggle doing a whole bunch of interior design projects. And so, we have rules and policies and procedures for vetting people to get in the door to begin with. So it's a very different thing than a lot of like the grassroots. And I got into it because I needed it for myself. I was getting priced out by the internet like crazy. It was
Sure.
it wasn't just the loss of that chandelier that she wasn't buying from me. It was the all of a sudden she doesn't trust me because we're almost done with the whole house. And I say, I'm going to do something different. So I went to the New York Design, that we're all supposed to go to, the proper channels. I quoted the chandelier. I made sure I asked the person who was helping me, this is the price that I'm thinking of giving her. I'm thinking I'm only going to double it and maybe take 20% off of that because it is a very expensive thing. It's the right thing. I want her to have it. You know how we do this, right?
Yeah.
We
Right.
we cut ourselves so that they get the pretty thing. So I wasn't even making a lot on this. And she was suddenly very silent and like not getting back to me about other things that we needed to do. And turned out she was finding it online for cheaper than what my designer cost was.
Oh, wow.
And it was going to have free shipping. And I'm like, this can't be right. So I call the design center and I said, how is this possible? And they had no answers for me. So at
That's
that point, I was,
that's
and
embarrassing and that's hard
yes,
because it is the loss of trust for so many designers out there.
yeah.
I think every
So,
designer out here has been shopped,
yeah.
and that it's not the shopping that is the hard part. It's that loss of you're 100% right, that loss of trust
Yeah,
with
I
the
don't
client.
care about one chandelier. I care about the loss
No.
of that client. She is someone who lives in my town, knows everybody. She's got a million kids and dogs and businesses and all kinds of stuff. She should have been a referral that kept going for years.
Right.
But
Right.
instead, we didn't finish up everything. I didn't get the professional photography. So this was such a hard lesson. I was so burned by this that it made me just rethink everything. And I went to High Point for the first time. One of my ASID mentors was telling me about her buying group, but she wouldn't let me into her buying group because the other people didn't know me.
Right. Right.
So, when it's kind of closed off, I decided, okay, if I'm going to do my own, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do this closed off thing. It has to be built on trust. I have to trust whoever's coming in. If you prove to be untrustworthy, then you're out, you
Yeah.
know? And we have lots of rules to make sure that, you know, these are the lines. This is where
Right.
you stay and you don't go, you want not coloring besides that, like
So
you
do
stay
you
in.
do any vetting for these designers are you looking into what the internet prices are for them to make sure that you're under, or is that something you're not really
It's,
offering?
no, they're doing that themselves.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
because you have to. I mean, even with stocking dealer pricing, sometimes some manufacturer has a sale because that item's about to be discontinued. And so some website has it for the same price as what, or close to it, like where you just have to be careful no matter what. But our discounts are so much better than anywhere else. That's the huge advantage is like I have price comparisons of competitors and where, you know, a lot
Where you're
less.
sitting, yeah.
Yeah.
How are you handling what do you do about the liability aspect? So if I were in your business now, I'm in your shoes
Mhm.
right now, and I'm thinking like, what does that open Heather up to? Because if they're buying through you, for instance, what if this business goes out of business that
We have
you're working with?
excellent question. We have an emergency fund.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, so there was somebody who was purchasing for other designers that became
I heard about
poor,
this.
yeah, poorly famous,
Yes.
badly famous. I don't know, for not actually placing the orders.
Right. Right.
And
That's where we're talking about the reputation of
yeah,
these buying groups kind of
yeah,
went off the rails. Like there were people coming in, you have to be careful who you're buying from because there's a lot of like mitigating factors. And the biggest is the liability of not getting the product. The product hasn't been ordered. Is there fraud going on?
yeah.
Are you going to be covered? Are you personally going to be covered if the business goes out of business? I mean, how are you? Those step-by-step things are really difficult to figure out. And unfortunately, there have been some scary stories. So I will say I've never heard anything scary about yours.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, about a year ago, we did have a designer go out of business. She
Oh,
had to
wow.
file bankruptcy. She was able to pay back, and I like my heart breaks for her. It was so horrible.
Oh, it
Um,
is. Right
it
now, it's bad out there. I mean, it
Yeah,
is right now.
right. So she was able to pay back everybody for the amount of money that the items were costing, but she wasn't going to be able to pay back the admin fee. So,
Right.
in order for a designer to place an order with any of our account holders, they charge an admin fee, which is a small amount. It back then it was 10%. We just raised it to 11.
Okay.
So out of the emergency fund, we paid everyone back for that amount
Okay.
because
And that
that's what it's
admin fee
there
goes
for.
directly to the brands, right? Or to you?
It was She paid everyone. There were like 10 people affected, and they all got checks from this person, the account holder, for the amount of let's say it's a desk or whatever, but the admin fee was missing. So we then
Oh,
paid
okay,
that
okay. I
designer
think I'm
for the
figuring it out
admin
now.
fee.
So how
Yeah.
this works right now is that you aren't the only one that places you're not the only account holder.
Oh, no. Mm-mm.
Okay, so every designer in the collective is bringing something to the table.
Somewhat. We have 500, well, over 500 members, and
Okay,
70 of those are account holders because it's
okay.
very hard to get these amazing discounts. Like
Right,
Four
right,
Hands has 7 different price tiers.
right, right.
And so we have the very top of that price tier, and it's very hard to get. So we
Yeah.
have a couple of account holders for that. So you can, choose which one you're going to order from.
Oh, you
But
can choose.
yes, sometimes my ultimate goal is to have at least 2 account holders, probably just 2, for all accounts, just as a backup. So if
Right,
somebody wants to go on a luxury vacation for a month, you order from the other person.
right, right,
Somebody
right,
decides to retire, then it's just seamless. There's no,
right. There's
you know,
no waiting, no
yeah,
waiting. Okay, I can understand that. And
yeah,
so the admin fee, the person that is placing the order, they get a little
exactly.
10% or
I'm not
something like
making money
that.
off of the orders. That's the
Right.
biggest difference between us and all of these other services is that,
So you're just making
GP,
money off of a membership fee? Is that how you
yes.
make money? Okay,
Yeah.
yep. All right. So that's interesting.
Yeah. And the emergency fund is 5% of every membership fee that we get. We put into that
Sure.
fund.
Okay. Oh, that's
Yeah.
good. So it backs people up. And it sounds like when there is trouble, you work with them. You work with like,
Oh, yeah.
how do they, I'm going to email each of you. I'm going to stay on top of this. I'm
Mhm.
going to help you work through your problems because it is really hard for a designer to have to close their business. I mean, I just know I've been through this with designers all the time. I had a designer reach out to me yesterday that
Mm.
15, I think they're in their 15th year of business and they're done from the perspective of like, I can't deal with these clients anymore. Like, I just can't be burned out like this anymore, and I've got to do something different. I'm deeply unhappy, and I need to change my life, which is very sad because literally her dream was just to create beautiful things
Yeah.
and do the
That
creative
client
part.
getting in the way.
I know that the client relationships, it's just
Yeah.
that can be the tricky part. So, but it sounds like you're very good at the admin
Yeah.
aspect
Yeah. It's
of
weird. I
maintaining
feel
a
like
relationship.
my life journey prepared me for this. And it's so odd to look back and see it. I was an
Right?
RA in college. That's the den mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like,
Uh,
when you're fighting over toilet paper, I was the one that the roommates came to and we would work it out. So
Sure.
yeah, there's a lot
Sure.
of that for like all kinds of things that come up.
Isn't that strange? Because, even like I think that too about interior design community. I really never pictured myself like when I came into this industry, I was coming from the wallpaper brand side, and I really didn't intend to start a community. But when you do look back, you think of like, oh, I went to school for journalism, and I like there's so much that I'm spreading news and sharing information with each other and connecting people because I was always that person too in my family. I'm the oldest child in my
Same.
family, and I'm also the oldest grandchild in my family. So I was
Oh,
like the person taking care of all the my father had 12 brothers and sisters.
wow.
So I was always in charge of taking care of all the cousins
Wow.
and babysitting
Yeah.
everyone and changing a million diapers and making games up. And I was
Mhm.
that cousin growing up.
Yeah.
So that is just, and most of my aunts and uncles had 4 kids. So it's just like I've over 50 first cousins.
Oh my God.
I know it's crazy.
That's
It's
a
very
lot. That's a
crazy.
lot of Christmas
On the
gifts.
other side, I have no cousins.
Uh-huh.
So it makes up for
Yeah.
it. But yeah, when you are in that position of like taking care of people all the time, it's natural to continue that in your
Hmm.
personal journey.
Yeah.
And how do you stay on top of like shipping orders and like when things the procurement side, like when is it going to come in and how is it going to be handled? Do you have to manage that process at all?
No, that's really up to the account holder on how they're going to handle it. And I feel like, we have grown so much and improved over the years tremendously. And, when we come up with a new solution, it just improves things even more. So maybe that's an area where we could tighten up a little bit just
Sure.
for the ease of clarity. But the way it works, here's the process. So you send me an order for a massage, right? And so you're sending me the purchase order. I'm sending it to Massad. They're sending me an acknowledgement. I'm sending you the acknowledgement and saying, is everything okay on this? You say, yes, ready to go. Then you pay for it. You give me a little admin fee as payment for all the troubles. And then I pay Massad for the product. And in that acknowledgement, there's usually ship's week of April 14th,
Sure.
that kind of information. So I tell everybody to mark down on your calendar so that you remember that because, weeks are going to go by and you're going to be like, when was that due? So rather than having to ask the account holder, which you can, when is this coming in? You have it in your notes. But sometimes they don't do that. So then you have to then ask the account holder. So you would email me and say, hey, when is this shipping? And then I ask them and I get my response. Or sometimes you have a login to a website that has great information. I love when that happens. And you can see for yourself, oh, it's shipping this week. And, either I've shared the login information or, I go in personally and then tell you what it is. Because
You might want to. I have a friend of mine. I don't know if you met her at High Point, Mariah Samos, and she runs
oh,
getmedi.com. And they have for multi-person firm. That's what they're originally set up for as the procurement. It's an AI procurement tracker.
yeah.
So because it's multi-person firm, you might be able to set that up to work for
Hmm.
the membership. I would wonder because it tracks all orders. That's kind of what all it does is track orders where they are, it's like an online portal for to track
I
the
will
orders
look
and where
into
they
that.
are.
Get
Yeah.
Medi. Okay. Good.
They're pretty cool. She's a absolute like programmer genius type.
Mm.
She's not really designer side at all.
I
So,
like that it's a woman because a lot of times the men in the tech industry, they talk down to you and it's like a pat on the
oh,
head and it's like, mm, mm.
seriously, seriously. She's not like that at all. She's really like with it and brilliant. I think she's going to do some really interesting things in this industry in general. I think
Mhm.
she's like one to watch because she's incredibly tech savvy for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And anytime we can come up with a tech solution to solve some of these like communication issues. I'm working on one for myself with, I've been using ClickUp for a long time and it's like when something comes into email and then you're just like, okay, that's very intensive. Like they have 5 different things they need from me. And just remembering what everything that needs to happen from an email, like things like that, and setting tasks from the email automatically to remind me because I have a lot of moving parts. So I think that's the same reason designers use that for ClickUp. And the AI features now are just so good. Like things are going
Yeah.
to get better on that side
I
with
sure hope
procurement, I
so.
think.
I just had a bad experience with an AI company. Well, they claimed to be an AI company. I'm not even convinced that's what they are. We signed up because we saw 2 demos and they sold us a line, boy. It was bad. Thankfully, they gave us like a free trial kind of thing. But God,
Sure.
did I waste so much time and energy.
I can't stand. I mean, I'm very particular about what I integrate for AI. And I definitely want to make my life easier. So if it actually works, but there is a lot that is junk. There is a lot that isn't
Yeah, and it's
like
hard
you said, isn't
to
really
know.
even
I
AI.
saw 2 demos, it was like,
Right.
so how did yeah.
It happens though. We're all in that situation where right now we're gonna need each other, I think, more than ever to really validate what's good and what isn't out there
Yeah.
because I think that in the next 5 years, we're gonna see a lot more, "This will make your life easier," AI for 49.99. I
Yeah.
think we're gonna see a lot of that.
Right.
And we can have a lot of stacked tech that we're not actually either fully using or even using at all
Yeah.
that can end up in as a subscription model in your business, and you're really gonna need to pay attention to weed that out as
Yeah.
we don't need it
Exactly. I
because
feel like I learned a lot in that process of like
yeah, you do. Yeah.
yeah.
We all have to really vet, especially because when you go in and all in on a system,
Mhm.
anything that's gonna save you time and become part of your
Yeah.
workflow.
I was so excited. I was like, "This is
Sure.
gonna improve us. We can have it
Sure.
all in one space." And then, no, absolutely not.
Right, right. I think because what you're doing is so unique, you're gonna need somebody who's willing to play ball with, like, custom features
Yeah.
for you and your group
Right.
because your group
I
is
mean,
kind of different.
and honestly, what we have right now works great. I wasn't
Right.
even searching this out. They came to me and I was
Oh,
like, "Oh,
wow.
yeah." It was yeah. It
Well,
was
I love
messy.
that. That means you're getting bigger. That means you're getting noticed, right?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
take it as a compliment.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
how do you find membership? Like, how do you find members? Do they just all come to you? Is it
A
referral
lot of
based?
referral. I would say 90% is referral based, which is great. Our members really understand how much better they're doing, and they want to share that with their fellow friends and neighbors with an interior design background. So, yeah.
Right,
I mean, we do little events here and there, but this isn't a trust fund business.
right,
You know,
right.
there's no one backing me. It's hey, membership pays for everything. That's it. So, yeah, mostly referral. And then
Referral,
occasionally
okay.
somebody finds the website, or I saw a social media post or something like that. But
Sure,
yeah,
sure. How do you but you do go to events. I see you at events. You're part of Interior Design Society,
yeah,
correct?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Is Interior Design Society part of the I mean, not
I'm a
you're
sponsor for them. Yeah.
you're a
So,
oh, okay.
yeah, for like next week, I'm going out to Portland for their swatched event. I'm
Oh,
a
okay.
sponsor for their rug category.
Oh,
So,
wow.
hopefully I get to meet people and inspire them to check it out and join.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And, I have talked to some of your members in the past that were really happy with the service and
Mhm.
really loved it. and said really good things about you. So that's
Oh, that's always
really,
nice. Yeah.
I know, it's always nice to hear.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that, for the listeners, there's always somebody that, how do you deal with the people that are coming that have objections to a few of the problems that I think design, if you wanna call it I have a hard time calling it a buying room, I'm telling you, because there are some that are, like, not really it's more like, I do like that it's more of a collective than a buying group.
Yeah.
But the issue is always, I've only talked to brands about this, is that, you're buying if you have 2 people, you're buying from their reps. So their reps are getting the sale from everybody around the country, and then that creates problems for that brand's internal rep structure
Yeah.
sometimes, because that rep is technically selling to people that are in different buying areas. How do you handle those kinds of complaints from the manufacturing side?
Well, I can't control the world. I wish I
Right,
could,
right,
I would make it all better, but I
right.
can't. So I have to deal with what I'm given. Anytime that there is a national sales rep, that's what we opt for because then you're
Yes,
not stepping on the toes of the other guys. There are vendors who know from the president of the company down to the sales rep that you deal with, all the way throughout, 100% cool with it. Awesome. This is a great concept. It's a win-win. You're helping us with sales. You're bringing more designers in. It's all positive and roses. And then there are companies that just don't know what to make of it because it's not the structure that they have in place, but they also want designers to buy from them. But if you're
sure.
not offering a good enough price and you're going to get priced out by the internet, you're going to lose that sale.
Anyway, right.
So, you know,
So it really does compete with, like, you could just say what you're doing is I wanna say, like, I wanna call it, like, you're doing the same thing Wayfair is doing because they have a rep. They sell all around the country, but you're taking Wayfair out of the equation and letting the designers have that
yeah,
same
it's like
buying power.
where you could sort of make that comparison.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, and who would want Wayfair to make the sale versus a designer who's a small business owner,
right,
right? I
right.
mean, so to me, I mean, if and you're right that they're not gonna get the sale anyway if it's priced they're priced out of it, of
Yeah,
getting the sale.
right.
So, in the membership, are there any other, and I know you said it's all included within the membership, but do you do any events? Do you do anything to bring
Yes,
people
yeah.
together?
Oh, yeah. So
Oh, I'd
at
love
High
to hear
Point,
that. Yeah.
yes. Oh, I love it. Yeah. Community is a huge part of what we do. Our Facebook group is so strong. Actually, one of the free gifts is something that we've created because of our amazing community. I want everybody who's listening to get a copy of the Who Really Makes It. It's a list that we just created because a lot of times your client comes to you with the magazine that showed up in the mail. And, so we get that question all the time. And I thought this is a great opportunity to just take a little time and make a list. So who made that Pottery Barn sofa? It's one of these three companies.
Right.
So,
Right.
so the Who Really Makes It list, is
I
part of
love
that
that.
community
I love
stuff.
that.
Yeah.
We'll include that in your email we're gonna do a big email about you, and we're gonna do a blog
Oh,
post
thank you.
about you, so we'll
Yeah.
include all of that in your
Hmm.
links too,
Yeah.
to give the members that, because of course they care about that, because that's what you're competing against all the time.
Exactly. They make it look fabulous in that magazine that shows up in the mail. So
Sure.
of course your, client's going to show it to you. But anyway, so High Point's coming up. So I
Yes.
do meetups. So I come up with basically what my schedule is going to be, and I just invite everybody along. And now other account holders are starting to say, "Oh, well, let's go see, this company, and let's go see that company." So we're making appointments and
Okay.
touring together.
Wonderful. Well, you're all welcome to come. Korean Company is hosting another party on Sunday, at 3:30. You're all
Oh,
welcome to come. We'd love for
okay.
Designer Collective to come.
Oh, that's fun.
They renovated their whole showroom. It's all brand new this
Oh,
market.
exciting.
So
Okay.
very
I have to check
exciting.
that out.
Yeah, and they'll have
Yeah.
food and drinks and all the
Nice.
funsy
Yeah.
things.
Oh,
So
good. Good.
fun day
Yeah,
for sure.
we're also doing a happy hour pizza party at a local tavern right, within walking distance from all the showrooms. So that's just fun
That's so
for,
fun.
yeah. So there's an invite for that. So if you register, I can order enough food,
Oh, good. Love it.
I always have to buy a little bit extra, but
You
if
do.
double the amount of people come, then, then it's a
Eat.
real like, oh boy, now what?
Just eat less pizza.
Yeah, that kind of happened to us at my very first speaking engagement. I put it all together for one of the lesser known showrooms at High Point, and I couldn't believe how many people showed up.
Well, that's not a bad problem to
It's
have,
not a bad
really.
problem, but then when it came time for everyone to get their sandwich, it was a little chaotic, but we managed. We managed. It was good. Yeah, it was a very good problem
Yeah.
to have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
so
like point events. Are you speaking
yeah,
anywhere?
just like a quick breakfast
Oh,
for an
good.
IDS tour. Yeah.
Oh, good,
Mhm.
good. Yeah, there's always so many opportunities to, have like some really engaging events at High Point. I always think that like the designers are there to buy, and I'd never want to separate them from the opportunity to shop and make sure that they're finding the right product lines and they're getting the right content for their blogs or their social media. But I love the events. There are so many wonderful like we're doing I think I'm doing 6 panels. So I'm
Wow,
on
that's a
one and
lot.
I'm moderating 5 others. We have a small tour and then we have some parties and some dinners and things like that that we plan every market. And the amount of people that get that takeaway, that education part of it, it's
Mhm.
just so valuable. I mean, we
Yeah.
have attorneys coming in. We have
Yeah.
Wendy Acela is coming in. We're having a brand designers advantage. They are like a procurement company.
Mhm.
But they do a lot of data. They have like a ton of data, like how many touch points it takes to get a custom sofa through this company versus this company.
Oh, interesting.
If you're losing a little bit of money, or you need to price this one a little higher because it's gonna have a lot more touch point.
Mhm.
There are some companies it's 90 touch points
Wow.
from ideation to installation to deliver us a custom piece. That's a lot.
Interesting.
And we
Yeah.
don't think about how many touch points it can be to do those types of things. So
Right.
fascinating. I always love to learn anything I can. Any of the data driven people. I'm always super impressed. I actually have one panel that we have also Doug Weinstein, who is the editor in chief of Technology Designer magazine, and he talks to all of the smart home people.
Mm.
And it's the same situation of like how much data is in, what are people searching versus, what we need to be specifying based on how Google search and ChatGPT search is actually changing changing recently. Like I can tell you sustainability design is actually
Mhm.
way down in Google searches versus climate change design. Like people searching that have to do with climate change is going up. And
So
that's
the keywords are changing.
keywords are changing,
Interesting.
which means we have to change our keywords and how we speak to
Uh-huh.
clients and what's
Okay.
important, those kinds of
That on the
things.
website, all of the
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
We have to kind of pay attention to what are the search terms that are growing in our
Okay.
market,
Yeah.
and those are very, very interesting. And that translates. Are you getting into any kitchen and bath, smart home,
Oh, yeah.
window
Smart home,
treatment?
I don't know that we have, but we definitely have kitchen and bath. That's suddenly like exploding for us. We
Yeah. Yeah.
have we have a bunch of plumbing lines because we have one designer who opened her own showroom.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. And then kitchen designers are joining left and right and
Yeah.
offering their kitchen cabinets. And
Yeah.
if you don't know how to do all of that drawing, they do it for you.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah. Yeah.
So this is sudden because there was an article about, I forget, I think it was Furniture Today that said the kitchen is suddenly taking up more square footage. And so other rooms are just getting sacrificed. So if you have to sacrifice the dining room and or the living room, this is an area where designers should be focused.
Right. Right. Well, I feel like there's a big, from if I'm watching from a bird's eye perspective of like the kitchen and bath industry and the interior design industry, I will tell you, I believe they're colliding. And I believe very soon it's going to be one or the other that wins because people don't really want two designers for their home. They really want
Yeah.
one designer.
Right.
And, I think CAD work for the kitchen and bath is actually getting easier. There's a lot
Hmm.
of like really good tools out there. And, everybody's struggling about who's going to do the soft furnishing selection, the lighting furnish, because those are money makers. So
Yep.
it's going to be very interesting to see what happens to that market in 5 to 10 years. But I would guess, and I think also when you add in smart home, those three areas are, the savvy designer will be really starting to integrate all three into their practice, like smart
Yeah.
home features, kitchen and bath, and interior design, whether it be seamless, really, truly behind the scenes, or whether it be look seamless to the client,
Yeah.
I think is up to the designer. But it really needs to feel somewhat seamless to the client for sure, I think, at the end of the day. That's why you see like last High Point Market and KBA at High Point Market, because they know they need to get to know designers.
Yeah.
You're seeing more and more kitchen bath at High Point Market. You're seeing a lot of interior design brands wanting to exhibit at KBIS.
It makes
So
sense. Yeah.
it's really, really becoming an interesting playing field. And I think there's a lot that we need to be educating ourselves about and paying attention to collectively so that we're prepared because that's coming to a head for sure.
Hmm.
But I love that you have the kitchen and bath side covered. Do you do a lot of lighting? Is
Oh, yeah. We have a
that's
ton
always
of lighting.
integrated?
Lighting is such a difficult category to get a kind of
Yeah.
good pricing on. So,
Yes.
yeah, it's important. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's you can pretty much break even on lighting
Right.
if you're not careful.
Yeah.
So, having a designer-friendly brands for sure are
Hmm.
imperative for and to really know the storytelling. Is that another aspect that you as the collective, because this is something that I don't know if it's just me being just watching the interior designers, but I feel like the designers are craving storytelling
Hmm.
about the product lines. So
Ah, yes. Yeah,
to
probably.
really have that because
Right.
a
It helps
glossary of
sell it.
terms, it does to
Right.
help sell it.
Yeah.
And when they're walking in and actually having to sell against Restoration Hardware
Yeah.
and Williams Sonoma and all of the
Right.
brands that are out
Right.
there, they need to know what the stories are that go along with the product lines. So
Right.
enriching your designer collective with strong storytelling about each brand, really doing the research for them so they don't have to think about it. They have those like romancy blurbs that really explain why it's expensive and why it's handcrafted and
Right.
what are we bringing it to the table?
Yeah.
Because a lot of these brands don't have the marketing budget that a Restoration Hardware has, and so they are never going to have these like wonderful little stories, crafty stories that explain why it's
Yeah.
so
I
special.
love when they do. There are certain companies where you can go on the website and they can show you like how it's made and they're telling you about like Javier who makes the leather,
I
and you're
love it.
seeing, like that's so good. I love it when the website does that. We just did our first TDC trip. So
Oh, you did?
yeah, so I took everyone to Lancaster County and they have a trade show every year. So we went to the trade show and we went to a bunch of other fun things too, like antiquing and other stuff. And then the next day we went and did a tour of one of the manufacturers.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
nothing
I love it.
smells that better than the smell of like freshly cut wood and seeing
Right.
it go from a giant piece of wood into like, smaller pieces because you're cutting this part off for whatever reason and then watching it get made through the process. The understanding of how it's all put together and everything is just so much better.
Oh, that is so fantastic. I would love to also invite your collective, and I'll send you an email on this, but I've been working with I just got back from Design Edge, which is a
Oh,
small new
right.
trade show for designers specifically only. And they bring a lot of high point brands, kitchen brands to different parts of the country. And the goal is like senior leadership of those brands are there,
Hmm.
really seniorly, so we can talk about the real issues, like just try to solve some of these problems together.
Mhm.
Really talk about like, we love your ordering process, but we don't love this particular rep, or we don't really love like how long it takes for it to get it, or it's broken when it comes in. How do we
Yeah.
fix it? What are the available solutions that we could come up with together as a community to like figure that out? So
Mhm.
I'm excited to see how we can all work together. And I think that you're already kind of doing that in a mini way, like helping these designers come together and learn from one another and share information. Do they actually share business information on top of
Oh,
like
yeah.
they
Yeah.
do
Yeah. We
contracts, things like that?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. In our Google Drive, there's many folders. So every single vendor has their own folder with the price list and a how to order sheet all organized there. There's also the main folder. And within the main folder, there's other more special folders. And one of them is business contracts and tools.
Oh, good.
So there's so much good information in there.
Onboarding information,
Yeah.
like
The
what to buy
welcome
your client for
packet.
a
Yeah.
gift, like all those fun,
Yeah.
fun things that nobody wants to have to think about. But
Right. Parts for measuring stuff that, you just keep around and have handy and yeah.
that's so great. So you're the organizer of the
Yeah.
information
Yeah.
and have to keep everything very, very organized so that people aren't making mistakes. Do you find that this mitigates mistakes made in the ordering process? Because a lot of designers coming into the industry really don't know how to place an order properly. And that's
Yeah.
where mistakes really make and very expensive mistakes can happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I have a webinar that I've done in the past called, creating a good purchase order for beginners. And I go through it step by step and I
I've heard about
tell,
this.
yeah, the pitfalls of like when it went wrong for someone and what
Right.
happened in that situation and how you
Ooh,
could avoid it because, it's like one little letter. It's
right.
it's blue and not pink. What
Right.
happened?
Right,
And you
and that is,
turn
like,
it.
very expensive
Yes,
sometimes to
yes,
figure that out. I
right.
remember
And
a
the love
designer
seat and
who
not the sofa. What happened? Yeah.
I know, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We had a designer who, like, even on the website of the product, it mentioned a finish, but the picture didn't match what he thought the picture was the finish. It wasn't, and so he ordered based on the photo matching and
'Cause we're
then got it.
visual people.
Yep, we're visual people, and that was not the correct finish that was a finish, but not the correct finish for that picture, and then that's a can be a $10,000 mistake.
Yeah.
Now you have a table that you can't use because
Right.
it's completely wrong for the client, and you're not
Yep.
gonna be able to utilize that, and it was
Yeah.
custom made.
Mhm.
So, you're stuck with it. You're
Yeah.
stuck with
Yep.
it.
Yep.
Do you also in those cases where somebody does let's just say someone makes a terrible mistake, do you help them offload product amongst yourselves?
I mean, yeah, somebody'll like post, "Hey, I wound up with these 2 chairs that whatever the client hated or whatever the situation was. Can anybody use them?" And then other people will also give suggestions like, the ER designer list is another Facebook group for this kind of things, try posting it there too. And, you know, so yeah, it's
It
rare because like we live all over the country. So are you
Yeah,
also going to pay for the freight for that? But
right, right,
yeah,
right.
we
But that's
do
still
can.
so do yeah, and that you do what you can to help one another is such a great thing. Do they recognize each other as part of the like, have friendships been made? I love
Oh,
that's my favorite part of the
absolutely.
interior design community.
Definitely.
Isn't
Yeah.
that the best part? Is,
Yes.
like, people, like I've had designers that met through interior design community that became bridesmaids. That's my favorite
Oh,
story. Like, I was like, "That's the one."
yeah. Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
have
There's
gone
a,
on vacation together or,
right.
things like that. That is just, like, the best
Yeah,
stuff.
they room together at High Point and share a
Yes.
house and stuff, yeah. They're meeting up for coffee and, having, like, monthly, like, check-ins to keep each other on target, and yeah, it's good
It
stuff.
feels so good to be helping others. I mean,
Mhm.
really, I mean, it doesn't that isn't that the best part? I mean, there's always problems. I'm sure there's always the problems every day, but isn't, like, the best part is at the end of the day, we're just trying to help people,
Yeah,
you know? We're just
yeah.
trying to help people be successful, earn a living,
Mhm.
have a future for themselves,
Yeah,
and have some safety.
yeah. I love that feedback when I get to hear, like, "Oh, this has helped me so much," and, all of the good things. that keeps
Yeah.
you going for sure.
It really does. I can't think that it's said enough, I think, really, in this industry, that how much helping one another, it doesn't just help you. Like, when you're getting the help, it's not just you, it's also the person giving that information, and how good it feels to help someone else in that situation.
Yeah.
So that's why I always encourage people to share information. This industry was a completely different industry before we came into it. Like,
Oh, yeah.
honestly, like, I hear the stories from back then when it was very isolating and no one talked to each other, really before the internet. The internet has changed the game
Yeah.
for interior designers. We were
Right.
now able to talk
Some
to
for
each
good
other.
and some for bad. But
Some for
yeah.
bad, some for
Yeah.
bad, for sure, but a lot for good too.
Mhm.
Like, we are able to share information. Like, this business probably couldn't have happened before the internet.
Oh, no, yeah. I
So,
don't know how I would
yeah.
do it. It would be very small and yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, so exciting. And thank you so much, Heather. This has been so fantastic. We're going to get some information out to all of you, because I'm sure there's accounts out there that you do not have. So you might need the Designer Collective. So
Yeah.
we're very excited to share that information.
Thanks, Laurie.
Bye.